After months of heated debates and closed-door negotiations, Senator Bernie Sanders' landmark economic relief bill has finally passed through Congress, delivering what many are calling the most significant direct financial assistance package since the pandemic began. You heard that right. 3,000 direct checks are coming to qualifying Americans, accompanied by an additional $200 monthly boost for Social Security recipients. However, before you start planning how to spend this money, it is essential to understand exactly who qualifies for these payments, when they will arrive, and the surprising story of how this bill survived despite powerful opposition. The political landscape in Washington has been dramatically reshaped by this legislation, and economic experts are already debating its long-term implications for inflation, poverty rates, and America's social safety net. Will this be remembered as Bernie Sanders' defining legacy? And more importantly, how will this money actually impact your family's financial reality in today's challenging economy? In the hallowed halls of Congress last Thursday, the atmosphere was electric as the final votes were tallied and the legislation, officially titled the Economic Security Enhancement Act, passed by the narrowest of margins. After weeks of negotiation and strategic lobbying, Senator Sanders secured critical votes from several unexpected allies across the aisle. The Vermont senator, a longtime champion of economic justice, described the moment as a victory not for himself, but for the working families of America who have been left behind for far too long. The centerpiece of the legislation provides 3,000 direct payments to Americans earning under $75,000 annually, with graduated amounts for those earning between $75,000 and $100,000. Families will also receive additional payments of $1,100 per dependent child. Perhaps most significantly for seniors, the bill includes a $200 monthly increase to Social Security benefits, directly addressing what Sanders has repeatedly called the crisis of elder poverty in America. But how did Sanders manage to push through such ambitious legislation in today's divided political climate? The path to passage reveals a masterclass in political maneuvering and coalition building. After initial resistance, Sanders found common ground with moderate senators by incorporating several economic safeguards and targeting provisions that ensured fiscal responsibility while maximizing impact for working families. What we've seen is that direct economic assistance works, Sanders passionately declared during his floor speech before the vote, emphasizing that during the pandemic, direct payments helped keep millions of Americans out of poverty. This initiative is not about partisan politics. It is about recognizing the stark reality that too many Americans are one emergency away from financial disaster. The timing of the bill comes at a critical juncture for the American economy. While inflation is finally showing signs of cooling, persistently high housing costs continue to strain family budgets, leaving many struggling with basic needs. Recent economic data reveals that nearly 40% of Americans would have difficulty covering an unexpected $400 expense, highlighting a deep-seated financial fragility that persists even in times of low unemployment. You might be wondering when these checks will actually arrive in American bank accounts. According to Treasury Department officials, the implementation plan aims to begin direct deposits within 45 days of the bill's signing, with paper checks to follow shortly thereafter. Social Security recipients will see their monthly increase reflected in the second payment cycle. The qualification process builds on systems established during previous relief programs by utilizing tax return data and existing Social Security Administration records to determine eligibility. For most Americans who have filed recent tax returns or received Social Security benefits, no additional action will be needed to receive payments. However, the IRS is expected to create an online portal for those who need to update their information or check their payment status. Amid the celebration, concerns over inflation have dominated economic discussions, with opponents arguing that additional consumer spending power could reignite inflationary pressures. Sanders and his allies countered these concerns with evidence from leading economists, suggesting that the targeted nature of the payments would primarily support essential spending rather than fueling broad-based inflation. As explained by Economic Policy Advisor Dr. Maria Chan, the funds will go directly into local economies, where families struggling to afford groceries, housing, and healthcare will benefit the most. These recipients are not making luxury purchases that drive inflation, but are meeting basic needs that have grown increasingly difficult to cover as wages fail to keep pace with rising living costs. The additional Social Security benefit is seen as a particularly significant victory for seniors, longtime advocates for reform, who argue that existing cost of living adjustments do not adequately address real expenses, especially healthcare costs that typically outpace general inflation. AARP spokesperson Thomas Reynolds described the provision as an overdue recognition that Social Security benefits have lost purchasing power over time, noting that this $200 monthly increase will make a meaningful difference for seniors on fixed incomes who have been disproportionately impacted by rising prescription drug costs and housing expenses. For 72-year-old Margaret Wilson from Ohio, the extra $200 a month represents more than just numbers on a page. "I've been cutting my blood pressure pills and stretching them out. After paying rent and utilities, there's just not enough left," she shared, adding that this increase means she will no longer have to choose between medicine and meals. Despite facing fierce opposition from various quarters, including industry groups concerned about potential wage pressures and fiscal conservatives warning about the impact on the national debt, Sanders overcame these obstacles by attaching several accountability measures and offsets designed to address such concerns without compromising the core benefits. Key funding mechanisms include a temporary corporate tax adjustment affecting only companies with annual profits exceeding $100 million, as well as the closing of several long-criticized tax loopholes. The legislation also contains economic triggers to adjust future implementation phases based on inflation indicators, a compromise that proved crucial in securing votes from economic moderates. Critics remain unconvinced, however. Representative Thomas Arrington has called the bill fiscal irresponsibility disguised as compassion, predicting long-term economic consequences. Meanwhile, industry groups like the National Association of Manufacturers have expressed concerns that the corporate tax provisions might negatively impact job creation and investment. Recent polling indicates strong public support, with approximately 67% approval for the direct payment provisions and an even higher 78% backing for the Social Security increase. This robust public approval played a significant role in pressuring representatives from both parties to support the legislation despite institutional opposition. The bill's passage represents a remarkable political achievement for Sanders, who has spent decades advocating for economic policies that more directly benefit working-class Americans. Many political analysts believe this legislation vindicates his consistent focus on economic inequality, suggesting that current economic conditions have finally created the political space for more direct intervention to support struggling households. As political scientist Dr. James Hoffman explained, when working families feel squeezed despite low unemployment, traditional economic approaches lose credibility, thereby opening the door for more direct assistance models. For families like the Martinez family in Arizona, where both parents work full-time yet find themselves falling further behind each month due to rising childcare costs and rent increases, this legislation could not have come at a more critical time. Elena Martinez expressed relief, stating, "The $3,000 will help us catch up on bills and perhaps start a small emergency fund," emphasizing that the stress of living paycheck to paycheck takes a toll on health, relationships, and overall quality of life. Moreover, additional insights from community experts and local advocates suggest that the timely disbursement of these funds will not only stabilize household finances, but also contribute to local economic resilience in the face of ongoing global uncertainties. To stay informed about the implementation timeline, qualification requirements, and what this historic legislation means for your specific situation, make sure to subscribe to our channel for ongoing updates. We will be interviewing economic experts, tracking the rollout process, and providing step-by-step guidance on navigating the payment system. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss critical information that could affect your family's financial future. And drop a comment below letting us know how you plan to use these funds. Your engagement matters, because as the economic landscape changes rapidly, staying informed has never been more important for securing your financial well-being and building a more resilient community for tomorrow.